All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting session of our live virtual training. My name is Jay. I'm one of the education specialists here at LMN and your host for this afternoon. So in this session, I'm going to be taking you through the entire process of building out invoices in LMN for your maintenance jobs. So if you attended our training earlier today in regards to the invoicing design build, this is going to be slightly more focused towards the recurring part of your business. Still going to show you how to generate invoices for your maintenance contracts, in addition to sending those out to your customers and how to get paid for those using the customer portal online. So we're going to learn again all about invoicing, payments, and money, and show you how easy and streamlined it will be to invoice your monthly maintenance contracts, as well as those of you who have the time and material service type of jobs. So for our game plan today, we're going to first again explore the invoicing settings, pay close attention to one of the specific features for your monthly invoices, and then show you how to take one of the contract-based payments that you built out from the estimate and be able to generate that invoice at the job level. From there, I'm going to take you again through the life cycle for your monthly contract invoices, show you how to go ahead and make changes to an invoice, review it, put it in approval, and also send it out to your customer for review and payment. At the same time, we're going to go through different ways to basically generate invoices for the time and material service type of jobs. We're going to have some specific examples that we'll be going through and show you how LMN can track timesheets in order to generate those invoices automatically. And then towards the end of our training, going to show you some more advanced tips and tricks when it comes to automated invoicing, in addition to bulk edits, as well as a quick little sneak preview of all there is to know about the customer portal based on different permissions that you give to your end clients. Now, as always, this is your first time attending one of our trainings. If you do have any questions, hit up the chat or the Q&A, and I'm more than happy to work through those with you. In addition to that, if you do have any questions that come up that are maybe confidential or company specific, and your company is still going through onboarding, highly encourage you to save those for your next onboarding meeting, and they'll be more than happy to address them in those sessions. So with that being said, let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about invoicing in LMN for your maintenance type of jobs. So specifically, as mentioned, we're going to be focusing on anything that is going to be included or seasonal invoicing. So this will be dealing with your payment schedules for the monthly contracts. So we're going to explore different ways in terms of whether or not your estimate has that monthly contract built out, or if you had an emergency job on the fly and how you can turn that job on for invoice. At the same time, we're going to talk about any of the time and material per visit or per hour invoice services and how to basically build out a timesheet from the desktop side and then generate automatically those invoices with all of the worked hours and materials used and equipment usage, all carrying over automatically from that timesheet record into a nice professional invoice for your customer. Again, part of the process is once you generate the invoice, flagging it for review for any managers within the company, in addition to approving that, and if you're using QuickBooks, exporting that to QuickBooks for accounting purposes. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to actually get those professional invoices in the hands of your customers through 3 different options, either through mail, through exporting to QuickBooks, or even through leveraging the customer portal and having the ability to get your clients to pay online. Quite a few different steps along the way, but just wanted to give you a quick little foundation there. Now, very unique specifically because we're talking about maintenance invoicing is going to be billing types. So when it comes to the different types of billing types, and even before we get into setting up our invoices in the format to begin with, there are 3 unique options that you have: included, per visit, and per hour. So let's break this down accordingly. So if anything is going to be marked as included, regardless how many hours your crew is spending at that job site and how many visits you're providing, you will simply agree with your customer on a set amount that will be paid to you for your visits and services. So this is a contracted type of service. So let's say your customer approves a package, maybe 12 visits are mowing. Well, they don't pay you all at once. If the total is 1,200, you get to choose how many payments you get from that and divide it accordingly. So LMN will essentially cover that as a monthly payment. Per visit, though, in this case, does not matter how many hours were spent. It's simply where you're indicating to your customer, you will invoice them every single time your crew visits that customer on the job site, regardless how many hours your team is spending there. It's going to simply be a set amount of money to be paid every single visit. And finally, we have per hour. So you'll be charging per hour for those visits, and it'll count on hours spent and how much material was used. So you can actually program a specific hourly rate for your crew and all equipment sent to that job site. Are we clear so far on those three unique billing types when it comes to programming your services for invoicing? Just want to make sure that is crystal clear before we move to the next steps here. Okay, love to see all the thumbs up coming in. Appreciate that. All right, perfect. So it looks like we're time now to go ahead and navigate through our invoicing settings to make your life much easier as you're navigating through the invoicing tool. So once you're logged in to LMN, going to go ahead, navigate into our settings, and here are our invoicing settings. So again, if you attended our previous training, this may serve as a refresher, but again, always good to have in mind when it comes to programming your invoices, regardless of the type of work you're doing. So if I go into my invoicing settings, pretty much everything is going to be exactly the same as we have set up previously when it comes to your invoicing design build side of things. But for the maintenance, there is one unique feature that I'm going to be highlighting. I'll just give that a quick moment. And as a reminder, we have a bunch of different fields. So we have the invoice prefix, so anything that you want to show up before the actual invoice number, the next invoice number. So if you want to continue where you left off from another invoicing process that you have, maybe through book and paper, you can enter in that sequence. And then the default contract dates are going to be exactly what is unique for your maintenance work. So you want to make sure you program that accordingly, because your invoices will be based on that entire default contracts. In addition to that, your default invoice terms, so same idea in terms of how many days for which, or what the due date will be for which your business operates on. And then again, you can add in some customized messages. You have three different options. You can program that as specific as you want to. You have a GST number handy. You can plug that in as well. Anything essentially that you want to show up at the bottom of each invoice when your customer sees that invoice, that is what these three note fields will be all about. Okay. So once you have that all ready to go, pretty much your invoicing settings are complete. Okay. So as a reminder, just a few best practices here. So any job related to your maintenance work that needs to be invoiced, make sure invoicing is turned on. And the best part, if you already had a service estimate built out earlier with the monthly contract payments built, invoicing for the job will be automatically turned on upon that conversion. Okay. So I have a couple of different examples I'm going to show you. One of them where we actually invoice a service job when it comes to a contract already built from the estimate. And the second scenario is for a maintenance job where actually the job was built on the fly and there was no contract enabled. And in other words, no estimate was even enabled in the first place. So we're going to go ahead back into LMN. And we're going to use our same Star of the Show customer, Mr. Mark Johns. But remember, last week we went ahead and actually built out a maintenance job off of an approved contract that we had for him. So it's going to be a little bit of different features you're going to see here within that actual job. Okay, so we'll go to our job list. Let's find that job. And I'm going to open up the estimate to get started. Again, because we're talking about maintenance work, we have a service estimate. And within this service estimate, the first thing that we can see on this screen is that the contract was already broken down based on those start and end dates, and it was marked as sold. So the customer approved this. If I go to services and pricing, we can see that we quoted in mowing, fertilization, and bed maintenance. But because it is going to be a recurring type of job, we have our unique billing types. So included are per season, per visit, and per hour, each with the unique price, and the breakdown is according to that. If I go into the contract, we can see here, because mowing was set to be per season, we have a total of 9 payments to be invoiced at the end of each month. And that monthly contract service schedule was already shown on the proposal to the client when they approved. So that was our cue to go ahead and create a job off of it. And when the job was created, we can see here that if I go into my timesheet tracking, my services converted to the clock in task, so the crews have something handy to clock into while in the job site. And because it's maintenance, we have our services link. So there are those unique billing types that have carried over. We also have bed maintenance that was quoted per hour. So we have an hourly rate that was also distributed here as well. Finally, if I go ahead now, we could see here that if you attended our scheduling train, we also have the job schedule. So that was already built out. And the last part now, under invoicing, invoicing is already turned on, and our entire monthly payment schedule has carried over. So everything is pre-populated. You don't have any additional work to complete at this point. Okay, so it just gives you kind of a quick little breakdown. So that is the first scenario. The next option is if I go back into the job list, and let's just say that we had a job created from scratch. Maybe it was an emergency service build that needed to be completed, and we didn't actually create a contract, or we didn't turn on invoice. Well, to do this, we'll navigate to our invoice status filter to go to jobs with no invoice. So that way it will sort through the entire database in our account of jobs that don't have invoicing turned on. So we don't actually need to click individually through each one. From here, we could sort by our customer, and then we can go and find one of the jobs that don't have invoicing turned on. Say this one over here. Now, just to kind of get a little bit of information on what this job entails, if I go to timesheet tracking, we have our tasks in addition to our services, and we have some that are hourly included in bill per visit. So this is actually a mixed billing type of job where we have a variety of different options for the cleanups, aeration, lawn care, and so on. And if I go into the invoicing, invoicing is not activated. So to begin this process, we're going to first set up the job for invoicing, make sure it's service jobs. We have the PO and contract number handy. We can program that. You can see my dates are already defaulted accordingly. In my note, maybe I have a description for the lawn care and cleanups. We can set the cost code and then go ahead and lock that in. If it's taxable, we can also update that. And then we can proceed to our invoice schedule. We can say maybe we have 8 payments to be invoiced, let's say end of each month. Once I build that out, my description carries over, and in a matter of seconds, my entire schedule has been built. So you can do it after a fact for any of those emergency jobs you have created on the fly, but just want to give you the bigger picture of both options, so that way you can see a little bit more of some variety there. Right? So that basically gives you a breakdown of 2 different scenarios before we actually go ahead and generate the actual invoice. Let me see. I think I have a question coming in here. Is there a way to change the verbiage to replace the month in the monthly payment to an installment? So in this case, specifically that note would then need to be adjusted from this default. Once you update it from there, it will then default across the board for your invoice schedule. So yes, you do have that ability to go and adjust it from the beginning before you create your schedule. Now, on that point, if I go back into the estimate, when I was building it out in the first scenario, I can program it from this invoice text field. And that way it will be defaulted even before the job is created. Does that answer your question? Hopefully that gave you some detailed insight there. Again, does vary based on maintenance or even design build, because design build is more with the milestone payments. You are very welcome. Appreciate the question there. Thanks so much. Okay. Perfect. So now that we actually have that created, the next step is to generate an invoice. So to do this, we're going to actually go back to the first job that we had, which was created off of the estimate. And I'm going to go ahead and bring back my filter. Let's go towards this job here. And let's just say we're ready to go ahead and start generating our invoices. And go to the schedule. And immediately right from this section, this is where I have the ability to generate the invoice. So let's just say I'm ready to go ahead, generate an invoice. This is now what exactly that interface will look like as a contractor. So specifically for you before you actually send it out to your client. Now it is in pending status, so you can make any changes as you need to. For example, you can assign this to a particular crew lead or multiple crew leads. So that will help also when it comes to tracking with staff revenue goals. So let's say this is going to be split across 2 crew leads. Okay. I can also add in a new item. So maybe you feel like on top of that monthly contract service, we want to charge a customer for an additional item. And plug in the details there. But because we're making some changes already to the initial monthly payment, we have another level here called review. So by putting it in or flagging it for review, in this case, it's going to be for any of those of you on today's call who have managers in the office that actually review the invoices before they're sent to the customer. So to manage that in the most efficient way possible, regardless of the type of work you're doing, you want to navigate into your invoice list, and that will be where you can actually manage that entire screen. So let's say that I'm going to go ahead and adjust my filters to anything that is in review status. Even further, I can go ahead and sort by the customer name, and immediately I can see all of Mark John's invoices that are flagged for review. And then as a manager, I can actually go into the invoice and then review it accordingly. So if I feel that, you know what, we don't want to charge a customer for the invoice, I'm going to reset that. We'll remove that item and set it to approved status. Okay, so based on that, it's disappeared. Now, who can tell me very quickly, how will I be able to see from the screen if the invoice was approved? What do I need to adjust on this invoice list? Just want to make sure you're paying attention here. The status, exactly. Great job. So if I go here to approved, as you can see now, we can see all of the invoices that are listed under approved. So there we go, right over there. I have that invoice that is flipped to approved. So make sure you always review your filters accordingly with that case. Okay. So that basically takes you through that entire process when it comes to generating your actual invoice. Okay. So now that we actually have generated one of our monthly contract payments, I want to talk to you about how to get that invoice out to your end client and what actually that process will look like and what the final product will look like. In other words, what the final invoice will look like on their end. So there is a variety of different options. So basically, if you have some customers who are much older and they receive invoices from your company for many, many years in an envelope through mail, that is one way you can break this down by actually generating a printable version of that invoice. The section option is if you are invoicing through QuickBooks or you basically are going to be exporting it to QuickBooks, so you still maintain that record on the LMN side. And finally, through email and portal. So if you attended our estimate training, you would have seen how streamlined it is to send out a proposal out of LMN directly into the inbox for your end client. The same thing will work when it comes to your invoices. Okay, so there's a variety of different ways. We're going to go through each of the three options just so you can kind of get a quick little breakdown. So let's go ahead and take you through that invoice that we have built out. So if I want to go ahead and generate a printable copy of this invoice, I can go ahead to Actions and print it from here. And from this information, now I can go ahead and generate either a standard or letterhead mode. Now let me just want to make sure we have the exact one in hand. So let's just go back for a second, make sure we have the one that we created for this case. So let's just see here. All right, there it is. So I'm going to generate that printable invoice. And immediately it's going to create a PDF version of exactly a very toned down version and formatted version of what the invoice will look like. You have the company details at the top. You also have the invoice information. So the billing info, the jobs info, the invoice date and number, the PO and contract number as well, and the detailed description, in addition to those notes at the very bottom. So at this point, you would then print this invoice off and then basically attach that in an envelope and then send it out in mail to your end client. The next option is to go to Actions and actually go ahead and export it to QuickBooks. So if you're using QuickBooks, the second method would be for you. It will be put into queued status, and a copy of that is going to be stored within the LMN sync tool, which you'll then go to actually fully publish the copy of the invoice in LMN into your QuickBooks account, and then carry on with your process to getting that out to the client. Now, if you're using a different accounting tool, maybe not QuickBooks, you can always leave that as approved in LMN. Okay, so you can reset that to pending, and then set that to approved status. Okay, so based on all of that information that we have, everything is now officially going to be approved in this case. So based on that information now, if I go back to our job, another key piece of information when it comes to invoicing is going to be dealing with job costing. So now that we have some actual information broken down, if I go into my job costing overview, immediately I will see now that we've generated an invoice, because again, we haven't actually sent it out to the client just yet, but now I can see my revenue trigger being updated. And again, we're even on track at this point. Okay. So if I go into invoicing, I will find that invoice here. And from here, the final step that I wanted to show you is through leveraging the customer portal online for more detailed automation. So what I mean by that is if I go into Actions and I select Send and Publish, it's going to bring up another interface here or screen where essentially, if you recall from our CRM training, you have the ability to designate any contacts within that CRM record as a billing contact. So maybe you have multiple different parties for that end customer that need to oversee what the invoice looks like. So what you have the ability to do is send that to all of the billing contacts via email. You can also customize that email if you wanted to. So let's just say that maybe we want to create a customized message or a bit of a different description on what the standardized layout of the email looks like. You'll still get the company logo and all of that detailed information. But let's just say we want to go ahead and we'll send another email to Mark here. Okay. I can also send a preview. Here's where you can adjust exactly who you want to send it out to. So by default, the primary contact will be that billing contact. You can also select the reply to email. So in case they reply to this email, who in your company is going to be able to manage those responses. And even you can attach a PDF version like we saw earlier, but within this email notification. The moment I go and click on email and publish, that has now officially been sent through to the portal along with Mark John's email as well. So he will immediately get a notification that that invoice was sent over to him. And you can see the confirmation here in addition to the portal status being added. So you see, don't need to even create a portal account. As long as their email is valid, they'll have the ability to receive that invoice. And we're going to jump back to that a little bit later just to show you exactly what that invoice looks like, to show you some additional things to keep in mind to make sure you see exactly why that is the most recommended option when it comes to sending out your invoice from there. Okay. All right, so with that being said, we've kind of covered a few of the different ways to send out the invoices once they're generated. As a reminder on some of these best practices, very key, make sure the customer has a valid email associated with their account, so within the CRM, so that way they're actually receiving the invoice. And at the same time, the invoice status, make sure it's not in pending or in review. It needs to be an approved or queued in order for you to actually send it out to LMN to the end client, right? Because if it's approved or if it's queued, everything is already approved across the board, right? Everything is finalized. There's no changes that need to be made or reviewed again. You're ready to officially send it out to the client. Okay, so just some additional things to keep in mind. I want to take a pause here, see if any additional questions may have come through at this point so far. Okay, I don't see anything, so it looks like we should be all good to go. So let's keep things going. So now that we've actually sent out the invoice to a client, the next step is to understand how to actually collect those incoming payments that are being received either through the customer portal, or in addition to that, if you have any manual payment methods that you need to add into your account, and you need to keep track of that in your records to make sure the balance is crossed off accordingly. So to do that, there is a variety of different options, as you may know. So to get paid with get paid for your invoices, you have e-transfer, so there's a bit of manual work that is involved there. If the customer opts in or you provide the capability for them to visit you on location and process the credit card on site. So there's still some manual work involved with that. Also, if your customers are paying through QuickBooks, and then finally through the email and portal, and very unique when it comes to your maintenance or recurring side of a business is auto payment. So in other words, because it's tons of recurring business you may be having with one of the specific clients or multiple, they have the ability on the portal, if they configure the portal account, to actually set up or enable auto charge and a limit. So their card will automatically be processed from there. Or if you they provide you consent to do it on their behalf because they don't feel comfortable doing it on their end, you can do that within the CRM side. So I'll kind of talk about that as we go through some of the pre-authorization payment structure throughout in today's session. But before we even get into there, what is LMN Pay all about? So this is the payment processing solution within LMN. So an in-house solution that we have. So really goes back to making this an all-in-one interface, all the way from the budgeting to the estimating to CRM, jobs, time tracking, scheduling and invoicing, and same thing with payments. So basically a very quick and easy sign-up process or to get the discussion started. It's going to result in better cash flow, more reduced admin time, so you'll be more ahead of your invoicing, won't forget what was sent out, and an overall optimized customer experience for your end clients. Okay. So if this is something you're interested in, make sure to go ahead and first fill out the form with Clover Connect, which I'm going to be sharing with you in a moment. And essentially, once you go through with that, you get the discussion started. You'll also have the ability to go ahead and once everything is approved, plug in those merchant account details into your account to activate online payments across the board for your clients. So let's get started by navigating back into our settings. Show you where to begin with this. And we'll go ahead into our settings. And the first thing I want to highlight here is going to be under portal and payments. So you may recall this screen when we were talking about our estimate proposal options and job site visibility, but the same place you're going to go to enable the online payments. So from here, you have the ability to go ahead directly into online payments. I'm going to go ahead and share that form. So you all should receive that just about now in the chat there. And essentially, you have the ability to basically go ahead and see the quick little form to fill out to get the discussion started. Once everything is ready to go, you can plug in your merchant details to go ahead and activate online payments. And you can also activate it in bulk for all your customer portal users in the CRM. Okay, so in addition to all of that, you have the ability to review your online transactions here. And also, based on the subscription level that you're on, whether or not it's going to be professional or enterprise, you'll have credit card and ACH option available both. But if you're only on the starter plan with LMN, you'll have credit card only. This is where you can toggle by default across the board what options of online payment methods you provide to your customers. Now, if you want to adjust that as you're going through the invoice generation, you can update or override it from the invoice level, or even at the CRM level, you have the ability to do that. Okay, so just as a quick little reminder. Okay, so based on all of that, you'll have everything ready to go, and then your customer will be able to pay online. Now, at the same time, if basically you have more of a manual procedure currently, what you can do is go into your settings and go to payment settings. And this is where you can add in all of your payment methods like cash, check, credit card, debit, e-transfer, things like that. And then when you go into the actual invoice, so I'll go ahead and bring up that invoice again. So if your customer is not paying online through the portal, you have the ability to basically add that payment. I'm just going to go to the invoice, go to actions, and then add payment. And that's where they could, where you can choose what payment method. So maybe they paid you via check, add an invoice payment, and also export that into QuickBooks as well. Okay. Now to manage all of those incoming payments, you can go into invoices and payments. And this is where you have the ability to manage all of those payments. So let's just say, backdate this a bit. And this is where you can also take them and even export them to QuickBooks. Okay. If you want to add a new payment on the fly, you can do that from here and simply select a customer from your CRM. And for any of the automatic payments to kind of keep track of, in bulk, you can manage your payment run section. And that's where you can basically attempt to basically process all of those credit card payments. And you can do that in bulk from here. Okay. So that gives you kind of a bit of a variety when it comes to those different capabilities. Just wanted to give you kind of quick little highlight for the reference. Now, at the same time, Very excited to let you know that we have an LMN Pay promo deal going on right now. So these are all of the details. Now to help you out, I'm going to go ahead and share the link directly through the chat. So essentially what this basically will entail is for the pricing and packaging update with LMN in addition to the Clover promotion. And also, if you're very, very keen and interested into learning how LMN Pay can be implemented within your own business, I have a quick little link that I'm going to share with you where you can immediately book a call with our pay team to learn exactly more. Now, again, it's a great way to just get a little bit more insight onto how this all works. So definitely want to make sure you're all set up for success here. If you're definitely interested in learning a little bit more, I have shared the details with you there straight through Zoom as well. But definitely want to make sure you're all ready to go with that. Okay, so with that being said, we've kind of gone through the first process for your monthly contract-based payments. The next part I'm going to transition into is invoicing any of the time and material service jobs. So raise your hand quickly. How many of you are dealing with time and material work for your service jobs every now and then? Like maybe a variety of different options and different services. Dealing with time and material. Okay, so quite a few of you I can see here. Perfect. So we're going to first take a look at one of our time and material service jobs. We're going to analyze it, see what we're actually looking into, and then we're going to actually show you how to generate an invoice for those time and material service books. So with that, I'll bring you back into LMN. Navigate back to our job list. And actually, while that is loading, I do want to actually quickly go back before we even take a look at that time and material service job. I want to actually show you exactly what that invoice email actually looked like to Mark Johns. So just actually, if we go back and I'm Mark Johns, I'm going in my email, this is exactly what that email will look like. And immediately, as you can see here, all of that information is broken down accordingly. So you have the invoice name, the due date, and the number. And all that we need to do is click on review and pay. And that will then take us into the customer portal and automatically will view exactly what the invoice will look like, right? So that's the invoice. We have the detailed description. We can download it. Because I have online payments enabled, when Mark Johns goes to checkout, he can enter his card details and then click pay now and pay off that invoice. Alternatively, if he goes in the customer portal, we can go ahead and basically view that invoice. So let me just reload this for a second. So let's go into our invoices. And because I'm logged into the portal, if I go to checkout, I now have the ability to just click on pay now because the details are already saved. So just wanted to actually give you that quickly before we actually generate that time and material example. But that is just a quick little demonstration for you into how that all comes into effect. Okay. So based on all of that now, let's go ahead into our example here. So I'm going to find one of the jobs that we created. That was a time and material service job. To remind you, if I go into the tasks, I'll see we have our full cleanup broken down. This is going to be billed hourly, and our hourly rate is broken down for us. So to begin this process and to make things as easy as possible, because we're already on the desktop of LMN right here, we're going to go ahead and build a timesheet together for this job from the office. So I'll go ahead into my timesheets and navigate to the timesheet list. add a new timesheet. I'm gonna clock in. So let's just say that in this case, we're gonna have our different team members. Find our job. Fall cleanup. Let's say did this from this time to this time. It's an urgent fall cleanup. There's the hourly rate. Fall cleanup was completed. How many bags did we use? And then we'll submit that. No break was taken. Essentially, we have our timesheet now built out. Okay. So in order to basically generate that information, instead of you going into invoicing, going into the invoices, and then adding a brand new invoice to make this as streamlined as possible, the moment that service or fall cleanup was checked off, immediately, if I go into invoices and I use the generate feature, and I sort this based on today's date, immediately that information will be shown. And all that I need to do is go and run that invoice. And immediately that invoice is created. So all of that has now officially been generated for me, and it's date and timestamp as well. So all that detailed information is available and it's been taken from that timesheet date. Okay. So just to give you a heads up, and then if I go into the job, I can also see if I go into the actuals, I'll see that information. But if I go into my invoices, I can see that invoice has been created for. Does that make sense when it comes to generating your monthly contract payments versus any of the time and material service jobs? I know quite a few of you raised your hand, but just want to make sure that is crystal clear for you. We're good to go. Okay, perfect. So with that, this ties in very nicely to the next topic that I want to highlight, because I was showing you how to do that specifically for the basics when it comes to generating your invoices. But now for some accuracy, I want to show you how the automated invoicing comes into effect with the bulk features, in addition to some bulk edit capabilities that I'm also going to be taking you through as well. So with that, let's say that we wanted to go ahead and generate in bulk all of the monthly contract payments for that initial job that we had that was created off of an estimate. So let's go back and find that job. And maybe we're looking to go ahead in bulk and actually generate all of these payments over here in one shot as opposed to manually doing. So we'll go ahead, just verify the dates here. We're going to my generate. You can see here that we can even filter based on the type. So I can say only monthly. So let me just go ahead, navigate this. And now all of those will be shared right over here for me. And then we can go ahead and find that job. And immediately all of those payments will show up. The moment I generate that, automatically, and this is the best part, because again, regardless on what subscription level you're on, everyone will have access to the automated invoicing features. So you don't need to manually go ahead and do that. Simply now, all 8 invoices have been generated. More importantly, if I go into my overview on job costing, we could see now we're at 41.6% of our target. Okay, so all of that has then been broken down under my invoice schedule. If I go into invoices, everything is done in one shot. Okay, so you see how much more streamlined that is when it comes to generating all of that. Same thing can be done if you have any of the time and material service jobs. You can simply go to billable extras and then go ahead and figure out based on any of the jobs that you have, let's say this maintenance one, and all the time and material can be generated from there. Okay. Now, part of this is also going to lead towards some organizational aspects, and one of them being the invoice run. So if you want to basically generate a collection of invoices all at the very same time to stay as organized as possible, so you can do that. And also when you're going through the invoice run, if anything comes up that shouldn't be there, you can always revert that run if you need to. And at the same time, just like you've done for your design build work, the same with maintenance, you can create invoice groups. The unique part here that you have when it comes to simplifying your billing process is when generating or building an invoice group, you can do so on those billing types that are unique to maintenance. So if you want to go ahead and sort through all of your per visit services in one invoice group, or your hourly, or your contract, or even time and material, you can break it down just like that. On top of that, you can then build invoice groups based on billing dates. So maybe you have a group of customers you build the first of the month versus the end of the month. This will just help streamline when it comes to generating invoices at the very same moment in time. Okay, so quite a few different variety and options that you have. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and bring you into some examples here. So if I navigate specifically back to invoice runs, to give you an idea, let's say I go through this list, and let's say I go through this list of 7 invoices. All of these were created at the same moment in time. And again, if there's one odd one, you can always go ahead. You can delete it from there, or you can simply go ahead and click on that revert run feature. Bring it back into the generate screen. If I go to invoice groups, this is where we can organize all of our different invoice groups. So let's just say that one we had today was that fall cleanup. Maybe I want to go ahead and break down a group called my fall cleanups. Can lock that in. And now within the invoice group, similar to what you've done for job groups, is you can look for all the jobs that are part of the fall cleanup service or entail that fall cleanup. Okay, so I can just go through my list. And then I can go to the invoice list. We set that to all statuses. You can also sort by portal customers only if you want. So that is another filter that you have at the top. And then all of the jobs part of that invoice group that have invoices will be sorted accordingly. Even further, you can go into the generate screen and do the exact same thing. So let's say I want to sort by that group again, maybe only billable extras, and I have 2 of them. If I go all billable, I can see I have a bit more. Okay, so it just helps you stay as organized as possible when it comes to managing all of that key information and insights. Now, another thing that I wanted to also quickly highlight here before we kind of get into some additional parts on the customer portal is if I go ahead into the CRM and I go to portal activity, any of those invoice emails that were sent, you can actually detect exactly where they viewed and where they actually clicked upon. So what I mean by that is we can see if an invoice was actually viewed. In other words, like, did the customer actually click on that invoice that is to be viewed, or was the email even opened? So you can get as detailed as you need to, and you've done your job, sent it out. You can always send invoice reminders, and that would be another capability that you have. And you can even customize what those reminders look like. So if I go ahead into one of those invoices, and actually let's go through to the invoice list actually, because I want to show you how to do that in bulk. And let's say we have a bunch of invoices that were approved. We just say all groups for now. I can also sort by portal. And I can send multiple, hit update, and I can actually send multiple invoices to a portal or even send the invoice reminder. And automatically that same type of window would come up based on who you're sending it to. And then you can send those reminders accordingly. And if you needed to customize it, you can customize that email from there. Okay. All right. Now, an additional part that I want to also highlight specific to your maintenance type of work is that pre-authorization payment structure. So I told you earlier that your customers feel comfortable entering in their card information based on what you saw through the login of the portal earlier. They can do it on their end, but if they give you consent to do it on their behalf, what you can do is go to CRM, go to your contacts, and you can sort your list through portal users and whoever does not have activated portal. So let's just say I'm going to go to Mark's profile here. And within that, under the portal users, this is where I can go ahead and I can actually manage that information. Now it's all encrypted for security purposes, but essentially I can program auto charge and program what that limit is going to be. So that will really help you to program that pre-authorizational structure. Okay. So again, either or, if you want to do it, or if they prefer to do it on their own, you have a bunch of different capabilities there. All right, these are just a reminder on some of the best practices. So always make sure that the jobs that need to be invoiced, you have invoicing turned on. Make sure contract invoicing is set up for your maintenance work. You can filter by the billing date to generate the invoices or even using the invoice groups, and also flag services for review. So with that, now I want to quickly give you a demonstration of the customer portal, just to give you some more detailed walkthrough on all of the key features essential for your team. So with that, bring you back into customer portal. Okay, so if I go to the dashboard, this is where you can see different types of statuses that are going to be broken down. Exactly, so if an invoice is due, there's timesheet activity, or even if there's any proposals that are approved. So any activity within the portal will be on the master dashboard. Estimates, this is where they can review all of their different estimates based on the different statuses as well. And also if there's multiple versions. Job sites, so if you give them job site visibility into the work they've completed for them, they have the ability to view that right within this section. And again, it will bring up kind of like a map view where you can see as like based on different jobs that were serviced across the way, they have the ability to kind of program it based on the job sites that you created for that contact in LMN. So to give you example here, if I go to one of the maintenance jobs, as you can see, we have that map view. So if I go to this fall cleanup service that was completed, I'll be able to see any of the notes, if any photos were uploaded, and that key information will be seen. They can also view a visit details or a list view of all of those jobs that were serviced as well. And especially great for recurring work, the visit schedules that they want to pre-plan and see like, hey, when is my next mowing visit or fertilization or any sort of service coming up? they can pre-plan in advance and look through that from there. Okay. Work requests, so this gives them the ability to go through kind of like a work request feature. So if instead of them calling into your office for any new quotes that need to be built out, they can go ahead and basically break down and say like, hey, we have a cleanup that needs to be sent out, and we need a quote for that ASAP. They can also add a new request here, add a task name, make it urgent, select their job site, and enter the details, in addition to uploading up to 10 photos. Okay, so any of the account managers assigned to that contact in your CRM will get a notification on that request. And this is where your customer can actually go ahead and manage the different statuses. Invoices, the only additional one I want to highlight is payment history. So this is where they can view all the history of any detailed information, right? And they can basically take a copy of that record and download or print it for their reference. And then users, this is where if there's multiple users within the portal, they can go ahead and manage that, in addition to programming different level permissions as well. And profile. So just like we were talking about that pre-authorization payment structure, so if you do it on their behalf via the CRM, or if they want to do it on their end, this is where they can go and program that information and even enable the auto charge as well. So especially for those that have tons and tons of commercial accounts that are dealing with a lot of recurring business over the years, over the season, this is where that is another great capability to be able to manage that for auto pay, and also with the use of online payments to really streamline all of that key information. Any questions at all on the customer portal? I know you've seen it throughout the various trainings this week, but maybe even if there's any couple of insights that you want to share or feedback on how the portal is looking to you, if there's anything that stands out. I know a couple of you have been jumping in and out there through the chat. Feel free to take a moment here. Just let me know any thoughts you might have. And again, you may not be fully deploying the portal just yet, but still want to give you the full big picture of all the capabilities within it. Okay, keep those thoughts coming. If something comes to mind, definitely you know where to find me through the chat. Just let me know, and it'd be great to kind of see that. All right, I want to take you back into the desktop because as a bonus, I want to make sure I highlight some of the detailed reporting and analytics that you can also generate for Invoice. So with that, I will bring you back over here. So if I go into reports, we have some detailed invoicing reports that you can generate from this screen. So this gives you some detailed information over there to reference. Okay, so a bunch of job billing reports and an invoice summary. You also have the ability to go ahead into your analytics feature. And there's some detailed analytics that you can generate as well. So I'll give you a few examples here. Just like you've seen for estimates and jobs, same thing applies when it comes to your invoicing. So we have the invoice overview, the aging report, and the invoice listing. Again, very important reminder, you're going to see exactly how LMN loves to continue using filters. So very important to break down your invoice groups, because that's going to also help you navigate through these lists. And these are just some of the data points you're going to see when it comes to the invoice overview. So like total invoice count and total amount by status, top 10 accounts with remaining balances. So you can see quite a bit for Mr. John's here. But essentially, this gives you that anytime you wanted that quick little glance in terms of what's outstanding, what is overdue, you have that entire breakdown available for your reference. Okay. In addition to that, the aging report is another data point that you can generate here. Okay, and for all of these different analytics and data insights that you could see here, to extract that information for your team, you can either go and download that as Excel or CSV, or you can go ahead and actually export it to PDF. Now, if you're going through, you're applying a bunch of filters and you don't want to lose that view of results that you have, you can always implement the saved view feature. So that way you can create a new one. So every time you go in and out, you'll be able to have that information displayed. And finally, if I go to my invoice listing, this is where I'm going to have the ability to basically go ahead, see a total invoice count, outstanding balance, and payment amount. But also, I'm going to be able to go one by one at a time and see all of that key information about the invoice that we've been chatting about earlier today. All of those key data points are available right within this report. And again, you can download that for your reference. So that is pretty much it that I had to cover with you here on the invoicing side. A lot of key differences, as you can see here with the maintenance work. Just wanted to give you the full big picture. Don't expect you all to be able 100% at this point to kind of have this all in mind, but still want to give you the different steps and methods you can follow. And it'll be up to you and your team to see which type of methods you can follow when it comes to invoicing your maintenance work. So with that, just going to do a quick little summary on everything that I've covered with you here today. So in the beginning, we learned about all of the different invoicing settings, and then we moved into generating customer invoices for accurate billing as part of our monthly contract-based payments. I then introduced you once the invoices were marked as approved and they're generated, everything good to go, how to send out the invoices to your customers either via mail or through QuickBooks or even through the customer portal online. From there, we then discussed how to manage the incoming payments in addition to any of the payment runs for any of the automatic payments that come through. And then we learned how to generate invoices from timesheets. So for any of those time and material service jobs, and how the system will track that information based on the timesheet to generate the invoice automatically for you. We've also gone through some bulk edit capabilities, such as editing the different statuses for the invoices, sending out multiple invoices in bulk for your end clients, being able to manage all of that consistently. At the same time, we reviewed the customer portal in addition to the pre-authorization options for running payments in bulk, talked to you a little bit about the auto pay and auto charge and how that all comes into effect. So to make sure you're all gauge on everything that I've covered here in today's training, I have a quick poll. You did great earlier in the previous trainings. Want to make sure you're all ready to go on this side of training as well. So you should see 3 questions pop up on your screen, all about content that we've been covering. So want to make sure each and every one of you jump in there to go through this accordingly with us as we're working through things today. While you are completing the poll, I'm also going to throw it on your side to see if any outstanding questions that you have that we didn't cover yet today. And I'm more than happy to work through those with you as well. Okay, question coming in here. If we are using QuickBooks to send out our invoices, should we still generate an LMN invoice and export? Absolutely great question there. Keep in mind that yes, the data can be carried over into QuickBooks for accounting purposes. By keeping a record of your LMN invoice, that's going to also assist you when you're tracking job progress in terms of job costing. And that's where that revenue trigger will come the moment you simply generate the invoice. A great question there. Okay, another question coming in here. Do you think it's best to separate our maintenance jobs based on how they're getting invoiced into invoice groups? Yes, so this is gonna really help to keep things much more organized. So maybe you have like hourly bed maintenance or fertilization per visit or monthly billing for mowing services. You can break it down based on the billing type to keep it as organized as possible. So when you use like the invoice list or the generate screen, you can apply that filter of the invoice group to only see invoices that are part of that billing type. So it'll make things much easier when you're doing monthly or weekly invoice. Okay, looks like we're good to go there. And thank you all for completing a poll. Great job there. Appreciate all the participation there throughout. So I'm going to close that out for now. Thanks again for doing that. In addition to that, just want to highlight and share some additional links with you on some upcoming events and items here to wrap up today's session. So our live virtual training, such as the one here today, if you really enjoyed the training here, remember that we run these weekly for free. So whenever you hire someone new on your landscaping team, you want to get them trained on LMN through us. This is a great opportunity for you to keep in mind. I just shared that with you. Our Academy certification program, the 4-day in-class person training. So we have 4 different locations that you're going to be seeing here that you have the ability to register for. So a great way to meet myself and the rest of the education team in person when it comes to the training environment. So definitely want to make sure that you're well aware of that key information as well. Okay, so I'll just share the link through the chat and you should be good to go there. Okay, so definitely make sure to keep that in mind. In addition to that, we also have our business growth and transformational workshops that are also taking place. So definitely another one to kind of leverage and take it to the next level with your industry insight and knowledge. Further to all of that, tons and tons of educational resources that are available to you from the help desk all the way to the Academy online on detailed steps and tutorial guides on all the topics that we've been covering as well. So definitely make sure to keep that in mind when it comes to that key information as well. Don't forget as well, once today's training closes, you're going to be receiving a survey with 2 quick questions, letting us know any detailed feedback you have from today's training. Would highly appreciate if you could take a moment of your time to fill that out. Let me know about how my training with you went today, in addition to any detailed feedback you have about the invoicing tool that we've been covering here for your maintenance work. Okay. With all of that being said, it looks like no additional questions have come through. So again, from our LMN crew to your crew, thanks again for joining me today. If you have any further questions after today's session about invoicing your maintenance work, feel free to reach out to the team at LMN. Have a great rest of the day, everyone, and take care.